Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SoCal Summer Swing Out podcast. I am your host, Andre. We are joined by a friend of mine named Shari. Hello, friend.
Thanks so much for having me on the podcast, Andre.
Hell yeah, bro. No, I'm really excited because from the first time we had met up until now, the growth I've seen from you and just like the joy that you bring to the scene, mint. Okay, but to start, let's just talk about, let's give a people introduction about you. So, if people were to ask, who is Shari and how does she find dance?
Well, actually, it's kind of a funny story because I feel like everyone knows Spencer, and
Mm.
and actually, the reason I got into dance is because he promised that he would binge watch How I Met Your Mother with me.
Uh-huh.
I get to his place, and it's a Friday night, and he's like, "Okay, but before we do that little binge session, can we like just stop by Atomic?" And so he kind of tricked me a little bit
Ah.
into getting into the dance scene. And, I remember he actually asked me some questions before we went. He was like, "Oh, do you like dancing?" And I was like, "No way. I do
No.
not. I am not a dancer." And he was like, "Do you like music?" And I was like, "I don't really listen to music." And
Mhm.
he's like, "Do you walk?" And I was like, "Sometimes." He's like,
Okay.
"Okay, that's good enough." And I'm like, but yeah, it was so unexpected. I've never really like I never ever thought I would be good at dancing or that I even could learn to dance.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, and so it was just such a random thing. But he took me on a Friday night on a Lindy night at Atomic,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like love at first sight. Like
Ah.
I loved the vibe. I loved like the dancing. It felt like such a safe but fun and like joyful place to be. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I was like hooked immediately.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wait, okay. So he tricked you into it. Did you go watch How I Met Your Mother afterwards or not? Did you
Oh,
dance?
oh yes, I held him to that, I think.
That's so funny. Oh, for those listening, the person we're talking about, his name is Spencer Chung, and he is also a dancer who dances at Atomic. And it's true, a lot of people know who Spencer is, and we'll talk about him a bit more. Now, that's your introduction to dance, but you never like done dancing before that, right?
No, not really. I've done a lot of art and like design things, which has nothing to do with dancing. So it
Mhm.
was super different. Yeah. Yeah.
So, gotcha. And so, like, this was how you got into Atomic. How long ago was this?
I've been dancing for a year now, which is so
Snap.
right. Yeah.
Wait, how long is it when I first met you? How long you been dancing then?
I think you met me probably 2 to 3 weeks into it.
What? Really? For real?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bro. Oh, damn. I didn't realize that because it was doing everyone should know that we're talking with Sherry here, but Sherry does not just do Lindy Hop, right?
Yeah.
What other dances do you do?
I feel like I mainly do Lindy Hop at this
Hmm.
point and a little bit of West Coast. But I've tried all of them at this point. That was my New Year's resolution. I wanted to try every single dance style at Atomic at least once.
And you did. I remember seeing you like at all the things for a minute.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I tried all of them. I tried every style offered. I tried 60s go-go. That did not go well for me, but it was a
Oh,
good time.
oh, there you go. Yeah, that's so you learned an appreciation for different dances.
Yeah, it was such a good time. I tried all of them. I tried all the ballroom styles. I tried all the Latin ones. Yeah, it was such a fun time.
So I feel like you're in a unique position because I'm curious, what was your impression of Lindy Hop versus all the other dances?
It's funny because everyone says like, "Oh, Lindy Hop is the least sensual. Lindy Hop is, the most like joyful dance and things like that." Um, but for me, okay, like let me just frame the context a little bit.
Okay, all right.
Uh, I used to be such an well, I still am such an awkward child, but I used to be the awkward child that like would not hug anyone.
Mm,
I like would barely like shake hands with people. And so actually I found Lindy Hop to be terrifying.
really?
Yeah, and so it's funny because people will say to me all the time like, "Oh, fusion is so sensual compared to Lindy Hop. I can do Lindy Hop, but I can't do fusion." And for me, it kind of learning all of them felt the same level of terrifying to me.
Because of the physical contact.
Yeah, yeah, they all felt equally like scary at first. But I think the thing is, I feel like every single dance community at Atomic, like every single dance style, people are just so kind.
Mm,
Like every single community has so many people that don't care if you are there on your first day, you know?
hmm hmm
Yeah. So I think that helped a lot.
that's really cool that Atomic has that culture built into it because it can be very terrifying to go into a brand new scene with brand new people doing a dance that you don't know. So I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that it was like helpful to you.
Yeah, definitely. I do think though, like I think that at this point, I am starting to favor swing, like West Coast and Lindy Hop more. Like, even though I love ballroom and I love
hmm
Latin, I think
hmm
Lindy Hop has just like the most special place in my heart, though. It's just,
Oh.
I think it's like the music. Like, I love the music. I love that I always feel so happy when I'm dancing.
Hmm.
I love that so many people in that community like will learn like the opposite role.
Yeah.
I love that it's the one where I feel the most comfortable asking leads to dance.
Hmm.
Um, so I love so many aspects of the community. Yeah.
That is really really cool because that's how we met. We met through on a random Wednesday night. You were doing West Coast, right?
Yeah, yeah. We actually met through West Coast. That was the second time I had tried West Coast.
Wow.
Yeah, I learned the basic step on a Wednesday. I went, took my first West Coast class on a Thursday, and then I met you on the Monday after. That was my second West Coast class. And
Damn.
and I don't know if you remember this, but I like completely embarrassed myself the first time I ever met you.
How? Wait, what are you talking about?
Because, okay, the first time we ever met, so it was my second time dancing. So I
Uh,
had just started to get a sense of like, oh wow, there are some really good dancers and some really beginner dancers. And when you were so casual and you were just like, "Oh, do you want to dance?" And I was like, "Sure." And you just immediately like struck this dramatic pose. And I literally said to you, I was like, "Oh no." Out loud. I said this to you out loud at the start of the dance. And
uh,
you were so nice, but you were so like so concerned. You were like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "You did the fancy pose thing. This means you're like a fancy dancer. And this is my second time dancing, and this is like, I am sorry. This is not gonna go well for you."
aw. I do remember that now because that scared me. I was like, wait, what happened? What happened? Well, it was we were doing West Coast, right?
Yeah, yeah, we were doing West Coast, yeah.
What pose was it? What did I do?
You were like this out to the side, but you
Oh,
had like a super dramatic, like your arms were extended out to the side. And I was like, oh no, like this guy is so experienced. I'm so sorry for him.
I get yeah, that was the first time we had met, right? And oh
Yeah.
wait, Matthew was there too, right?
Yeah, that was the first time I met him too.
Oh snap.
Yeah.
Okay. And and then which by the way, I had fun in that dance. That was really a blast for me.
Oh,
Just
thanks.
playing
I
that out there.
appreciate you so much.
What I think was really cool was I don't think you know this, but that night I was just like really lonely. And so I really just wanted to dance and hang out with people. And when I was talking to you and Matthew, I'm like, oh, they're super sweet people because we ended up going and getting BCD after that.
We did. Yeah.
Uh,
And I don't know if I'd been to BCD before. Like, Yeah, I know. And you had like everything nailed down, the whole BCD process. Like
Yeah, I kind of am addicted to that place. I haven't been in a minute, but I've been addicted to that place for a minute.
that's totally your spot.
I like it. I like it. I mean, to the point now where Brandon, the general manager, at the
Mhm.
time we typically go, the minute he sees us, he's like, "Oh, hi, Andre. How's it going?" There was one time where I went by myself. He was concerned. He's like, "Are you okay? Where are your friends?" But well, I think that's really cool. I think it speaks to like the kind of community that swing dancing brings together because we were able to go and get to know each other from in at BCD and from there just keep on dancing. And I think that's so cool. We never would have been able to connect if it weren't for dance, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think too, like, um, the first time dancing with you, and just in general, like, it's so wild because you're such a musical dancer.
Uh,
You're like at that level where no two dances are exactly the same. And it's just like, it's honestly, I, even back then, I was like so in awe of how good of a dancer you were.
oh my God, Shay. Well, you're so sweet. Now it's my turn now. I think there's a perfect pivot point. Um, because you are also a phenomenal dancer. In one, I remember because when we started talking, I got to know you better. I realized that you did so much extra work. You didn't just dance at Atomic. You went home and practiced for hours. Because I remember telling you, oh, your movement is so intuitive. And you're like, oh, I've been working on that for like an entire week for 3 hours a day or something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, it's funny because yeah, a lot of people, I feel like there a lot of people don't necessarily realize how much I actually practice. And
Mm,
I totally do not say this in a way that is that's meant to be negative, but I think
mm,
it's just a fact that I actually don't learn very quickly. And
mm,
I'm totally fine with that, but I think at the very beginning, I spent the first 3-ish weeks just learning the basic
mm-hmm,
for Lindy Hop, just the
mm-hmm.
basic 6 count. And I definitely drilled for several hours a day, just the basic.
Oh,
Um, but I would do the basic to different tempos, like full songs of the basic to tempos. And then I would do it where instead of coming, where you do the triple step in one direction, triple step, you can take that second triple step in any angle, right?
yeah.
So I would do it at, a 45-degree angle, a 90-degree angle, a 1/8, like I would do it in every single angle and I would do that for full songs. Yeah, so I was very methodical about the way I practiced. Yeah.
That's incredible. Now, I'm so curious for my own myself, but I think we had talked about this slightly. But was that just because you really wanted to understand it, or is it because your personality is just go hard when you want to like get something?
I think I just love learning technique.
Mm.
Like I know like not everyone loves to drill, but drilling is like my happy place.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I just find it to be like a very calming process. It's almost meditative in a way, but
Mm-hmm.
I like if I'm having a bad day and I just get up and I start like practicing different patterns to the song, I'm like happy.
Mm.
Yeah.
We'll touch on that happiness piece here later on in the podcast because I remember talking to you about the practice and drilling. You and I are similar in the sense that I don't learn quickly either. The only difference is, I don't want you to use the term lazy, but you definitely have more motivation than I do to drill. Because for me, I'll spend, even when I practice, I'll spend like, maybe 1 or 2 songs practicing something. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. We'll practice it later. Like that's when I'm in my normal, but when I'm like go hard, go practice, then I'll drill. So you and I have that in common.
Yeah.
Um, which actually takes me to my the discussion because in terms of drilling, when you drill for Lindy Hop, I imagine it's drilling differently for like West Coast because you mentioned to me that those dances tend to be like different languages, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear more about like um what you perceive those different languages to be for the different dances.
I feel like for me, the differences I've noticed between Lindy Hop and West Coast, and this is speaking more strictly towards like the social side of things and not,
Mm-hmm.
performance or competition, right?
Uh-huh.
But
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that with Lindy Hop, you can do full weight changes on the beat.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like West Coast, the weight shift tends to happen like slightly after the beat.
Mm.
So that's like a big visual difference. And I've also noticed that with Lindy Hop, it's a little bit more of like a structured dance. And I've noticed like West Coast is a little bit less structured. There's
Mm.
other things too, like um Lindy Hop, the music, you tend to be able to get away with a more focused style. Whereas West Coast, like if you get, a more country song compared to like a more like contemporary song, you can't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily get away with doing the same styling,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there's a little bit more variation in the West Coast songs that get played. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like I'm not sure if this is completely true yet, but I feel like I have some West Coast dances that are actually even more conversational than Lindy Hop dances. Like I know in Lindy Hop dances, you can have call and responses, you can have stylings that get, mirrored by the other person in the next pattern. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in West Coast there might be some additional opportunities to hijack,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
especially.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I feel like that's just some of the things I've noticed. Although, as far as my drilling lately, the number one thing I really, really want to improve on is my styling.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually only been drilling isolations lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like hip isolations, rib isolations, body rolls. Like that's the only thing I've been drilling lately. And it's funny because I got a comment recently from someone at Lindy Groove
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think a little while back. They were like, wow, your Lindy Hop is so bluesy. And I was like, uh-oh. Like, uh-oh.
Because the things that you've been drilling in terms of like isolations.
I think possibly, yeah. But
Yeah, that's so interesting because I'm looking at our notes for our podcast here, and the way that you typed out your notes, yo, it's so technical. It's so no, because uh, in my notes here, you said that one of the things you've been focused on is isolations, and one of those things is also hands, right?
yeah.
Yeah. And I kid you not, in here you have angle and direction of hand, I think it says, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so one of the stylings that I've been trying to learn is, do you know Emily Huang? Have you seen her
Uh,
videos?
no.
She does West Coast, and
Mhm.
when she dips, I think she got first place at City of Angels last
Mhm.
year.
Mhm.
Yeah. But when she does a dip, she has an extremely specific way of dipping. And I watched so many of her videos, and every single time she gets dipped, she does the exact same styling. So I was like,
Hmm.
oh, I really want to learn that style. So the way the styling works is when she dips, her left leg is like extremely pointed, like her foot is very, very extended as far as it can. It's pointed, her toes are touching the floor. And then she dips her arm out. So she extends her arm all the way out. She has this hand styling that's very similar to belly dancing, where
Mhm.
it's almost as if you're holding a pencil
Mhm.
between your fingers. Um, and she starts that dip where the arm comes down very quickly and then it gradually comes up to form a circle. So it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, when she goes, yeah. And I think what's really interesting is in a lot of the classes, when we talk about styling, we don't really, sometimes we'll break it down like, hey, here's the footwork timing or here's the arm timing. but we don't necessarily, I feel like that's something that's not talked about very much, is that speeding up or slowing down between the counts is
Mm,
something that all really high level dancers know how to do super well.
mhm,
And
mhm.
so that's something that I was like reflecting on recently that I'm really excited about.
Oh yeah, I totally hear you. Have you taken a class from Blake and Grace yet?
I have. They're so cute.
Yeah, so yeah, they're absolutely adorable. The reason why I bring them up is because Blake, when I do privates with Blake, that is something he brings up to me. He says, yeah, one of the traits of an advanced dancer is having dynamic movement. And one of the things he talked about was slowing down or speeding up a move. So he told me that when dancing, I find that some of the best dancers that he watches tend to be people that can slow down or speed up any sort of pattern or movement that they're doing that fits the music. And so, yeah, that I think that's kind of like what I'm hearing you say in regards to the styling. Now, with the styling, I know that you also mentioned like patterns. So, how do you drill certain patterns on your own, or do you practice that with Matt?
Both,
Okay.
but I feel like, yeah, when I drill patterns, a lot of it, so it's really funny, but for example, like if I'm drilling like a sugar push,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
it's like I will just drill adding like a kickball change to the beginning, and
mm-hmm,
I'll just do that 100 times. Or like for example, if I'm drilling like a swing out, I'm
mm-hmm.
just drilling like the footwork variation of a swing out like for multiple songs, and then I'll try to drill it to like faster songs, and then I'll try to drill it to slower songs, and then I'll try to drill it with like an arm styling on 7 and 8, and then so it's very like it's so technical the way I practice.
Yeah, yeah, but it shows, you know?
Thanks,
It
I appreciate
shows.
that so much.
Oh yeah, of course. Which actually is a perfect segue because when I first met you and we first started dancing, I think everyone was complimenting you on like your smile and how much fun you were having. But you've heard that your entire life, right?
Yeah, I feel like it's funny because people that's like the number one comment I get is they're like, "Oh, you're that girl that's always smiling all the time."
Yeah, because you're happy, you know?
I am.
You're
But I feel like I almost feel like, is it wrong to think this? I almost feel like getting a compliment of being like, "I like your smile," is kind of like winning like most enthusiastic or like a kid. Am I wrong to think that?
No, 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 no. You're not wrong. Which is very like personal for me because that's one of the things I have going for me when I dance is like I have a big smile and that catches people's attention, as far as comps go anyway. But that's not wrong at all. I just
Really?
milk
Okay,
it.
what is the thing you get complimented on the most? Because I feel like the thing that is so great about your dancing is how musical you are.
Bro. It is. I have been complimented on my musicality a lot. I've been complimenting on how I give a lot of follows space to be able to have a voice in the dance. I didn't realize how uncommon that was until like recently. And then one of the things I get complimented on is my energy. They say I really bring great energy to a dance, to a floor, to a room, and whatnot. So those are the big ones. And yeah, but you have recently, it's pivoted for you. People haven't just been complimenting your smile, they've been complimenting you on your dancing now.
Yes. Oh my gosh. There was, I'm sure this guy has just no idea that he made my week, but
Uh,
there was this one guy who was recently like, your style is improving. And I was just like on cloud nine. I was like, I got a compliment on my technique. I'm improving. I was so happy for like the whole week with a
Aw,
compliment. Yeah. Yeah. And I just feel so just grateful that like when other dancers will say that, like, oh, your technique is improving, I just get so happy. Like,
no,
yeah.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, but like I feel like it's funny because even though I'm improving in some ways, I'm still having just so many embarrassing moments
Uh-huh.
at Atomic, like so many. Like I think all the embarrassing moments. Oh, okay. So there's this one thing that happened to me recently. So
Uh-huh.
I um I like went into the bathroom at Atomic and
Mhm.
I think I brought my backpack in. Oh, because I was changing. It was like right
Mhm.
after work. So I was
Yeah.
changing my clothes. And I remember just being like, I'm like so excited and so happy. And I like, as I'm walking out of the stall, the backpack lining like hooks onto the door. And I'm
Eee.
just like, I'm like practically sprinting out of this door. It hooks on, and I just like slingshot back into the stall.
Oh
All like right before the social was about to start. And I think there was another girl in there, and we just started laughing hysterically. It was,
no. Oh no. I'm sure other people who are listening can relate. Like those embarrassing moments happen all the time,
yeah.
right?
Oh, I have done it all. I've done it all.
Tell me more.
Oh
People
my
probably
gosh.
want to hear more. Tell more.
Oh my God. There was this one time where I was practicing bow with Spencer,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he went around me, and we were trying to connect back in close position. And I and my elbow was up like a little bit too high, and I
Oh.
totally clocked him in the face, and I was like, oh my, I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed and so concerned. Oh my God.
Aw. Wait, did you draw blood?
No, I did not.
Damn it. I mean, oh, good. Oh man. I mean, that's not uncommon because you got you have to get your arm around, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That makes sense. Damn.
yeah. And now every time someone does that move to me in Val, I scream in my head and I'm like, please let me not hit them in the face. And I get very
Mm.
excited when I don't.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I feel you on that. That actually recently happened to me.
Oh
Yeah.
no, what happened?
We were at a club for my birthday out here in LA,
Yeah.
and Laura Evans and I were dancing, and she did a turn. We had been drinking, so and so I got too close. Like her turns are great because she knows exactly. I know exactly where she is, but I got in close, and so she clocked me in the jaw. And this was like a jam circle in the club, so everyone's like ooh whatever. But when that happened, it was like the show must go on, so we kept on dancing. You know, I didn't really feel it because I had been drinking, so it was fine.
Oh.
You also mentioned because when it comes to like flocking, right? Sometimes that happens. Other times there are wardrobe malfunctions, right?
Oh my God. Okay. So there was this one time I was up in the fusion room
Uh-huh.
and I was like, I had been dancing there for like a while, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, one of my friends comes up to me and just like pulled on the back of my dress, and I realized that like my dress was tucked into my shorts. Like for I don't even know how long, okay? And she
Oh
didn't even say
no.
anything. She just came up to me, like pulled, like tugged on my dress and was just like, "How's it going?" And I was like, "Oh my God." And
Uh,
and like I did not have the courage to ask her how long it had been like that. But yeah,
uh,
yeah, so many wardrobe malfunctions. Oh my gosh. All the things. Yeah.
I feel like for a follow, yeah, there's a lot of wardrobe malfunctions that can happen, like a lead's hand getting tied in the back, or like some of the more embarrassing ones. But I have an embarrassing story that I want to tell you for me, just to entertain you for a bit. So I'm sure that there are other people that are listening that can empathize with the embarrassing stories. I think that's what will make the comment at the end. But one of my embarrassing stories is I have dropped uh, three follows in my life, three of them. And it's like as a lead, that's like to me, that's like bad. That's pretty bad, you know?
What happened?
Well, the first one was actually in high school. I was doing ballroom with my friend, and it was like a movie, Sherry. It was like a movie. Let me set the scene. So we were at this beautiful after party with this amazing house, and like there was a huge dance floor, and it was later on in the night. Everyone was tired. There was a slow song that came on, and my friend and I, her name is Sarah, we started dancing, and it cleared the floor. Like everyone was just watching us. They're saying "ooh ah," and it was just like beautiful, and we were both in the moment. And at one point, we're doing something, and there was a miscommunication. There was a disconnect, and like I dipped her, but then she added a styling, and I'm a high schooler, right? And actually added the styling. I don't know what happened, but I dropped her in the middle of everyone else watching. And that's not the worst part. I was an idiot and I got scared, so I ran away.
No.
I know. I ran out to the patio, and one of my friends was like, "What are you doing? Go pick her up!" And I was like, "Oh yeah." Like that was one of the most embarrassing pieces for me. But like dropping someone, that's ugh. Now I'm so careful anytime I'm dancing with someone who's doing like a big dip or something, you know?
Yeah. Oh, high school Andre.
I still am pretty awkward in that sense, you know? But actually, we'll do that now. So if you're still listening to the podcast on YouTube, please put it in the comments, an embarrassing dance story that happened to you. Okay. So do that. And this is instead of like the comment at the end of the podcast, just to tell us your most embarrassing story. Now, with with that being said, I wanted to go into some other highlights from your dance career so far, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, I think for me, honestly, one of the biggest highlights for dance is because I don't perform or compete.
Hmm.
And I think, sometimes actually there have been some people who have been like, oh, you should compete, you should try like this newcomers thing, you should try. But I feel like one of the biggest things is honestly, like there's so much of my life that is kind of high pressure. And, for
Mm,
example, like my job is like can be, high stress, or like
mhm,
I have other projects with my boyfriend that's like very, very high stress and very
mhm.
serious, and so I just feel like, but dance is like the one thing that is just for me, it's like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be something that's super stressful or have pressure. It's just that I'm there because I'm just genuinely enjoying myself.
Mhm,
And it's
mhm.
almost like for me personally, it's just a place that's just so fun, you know?
Mm, mhm, mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and even like I do art projects on the side and I'm
Mhm,
very disciplined about it. So like it's one of those things where even if I get up and I'm not in the mood to work on it, like I will work on it. But
mhm,
dance is just for fun, and it's
mhm.
like, so I feel like that's been a highlight, is just having that space in my life that's just for me, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, that does make sense. I think you called it a space of pure joy, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's just so, so joyful for me. And it's just so, I think too, like, because there's no pressure around it, I'm not making money off of it. I'm not trying to win competitions. Like, I think that that's part of like why I'm just always so happy to be there.
Right. It's like a different universe, a different world.
Yeah, and I think too, like another highlight for me has just honestly been just getting a chance to like learn patterns with other people.
Hmm.
Like one thing we haven't talked about is Matt, my dance partner.
Yes,
I have
yeah.
a dance partner. How crazy is that?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Um,
And yeah, go ahead. And then I want to dig further into that, what you said about
Yeah,
Matt.
and like one thing that we've been doing lately is just looking at like dance videos online and
Hmm.
slowing them down, like t taking them down on YouTube to like 25% speed and turning off the audio and then just trying out their footwork variations, or
Mm.
just trying out their arm styling, or just trying out like a pattern that they're doing. And just taking these like high level competitors and just trying out like one aspect of their competition dance. It's just so fun. And so sometimes we'll take that, we'll drill it a couple times and we'll try to drill it to a song. And I know that we're both still such, beginners because we've only been dancing for a year, but it's just so fun to learn those patterns with other people. And
Mhm.
I think it's like just even learning like what we talked about earlier, where it's like, oh, realizing that it's not exactly on the beat necessarily, or like seeing how sometimes those advanced dancers will speed things up or slow things down. And like I'll look at a dance and be like, they just turned that 8 count pattern into a 6 count pattern. How cool is that? I'll just be nerding out on it for like an hour.
I'm pretty sure there are people out there that have that same mentality or that same intrigue that you have with breaking things down so technically, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I find it so cool that the why, like this, what you get joy out of breaking that stuff down, because it's not like a drill where you're like, oh no, I have to learn this. It's more like I get to learn this. It's like fun for me, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think in some ways, like I think everyone can relate to just that idea of like when you're growing and learning something new, it can be so fun, you know?
Hmm.
Like it can just be
Hmm.
so exhilarating when you get something and
Yeah.
you're like, wow, that's like a new piece of the puzzle. Like, oh, that's so cool, right?
Yeah, 100%. And then when you nail it and then put it into your social dancing and it becomes like second nature,
Yeah.
chef's kiss right there. Does Matt approach it with that mentality as well?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I think actually that's how we ended up practicing is because um I was like looking, I like had practiced with a couple different people, and really what I wanted to do more than anything was practice with someone for like 20, 30, 40 minutes straight on one pattern. And just
Mm-hmm.
drill just one pattern to like all kinds of different songs. And he was the first person I met who was down to do that with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was like, okay, this is really fun.
That's
So
fucking
he
fun.
does have a really, really similar approach. Yeah.
Which makes sense. I found that software engineers tend to have like that break it down and figure it out mentality. And
Yeah. Yeah. What's your approach like when it comes to practicing?
um, so the way that I approach it is I have an idea or I see something that I like and I want to practice it, emulate it, or figure it out. And the way that I do it is if it's like a dedicated practice session, then I'll break it down, I'll try to figure it out. And if it comes to a point where it still doesn't feel right or it doesn't feel right for my partner, then I'll put it on a list of like, hey, I want to talk to Blake, Matt, Ritchie, Nick, or one of the leads. Be like, hey, I know
Mhm.
you do this. Can you break it down for me? I truly believe that I want to learn from the amazing resources that we have at Atomic because they have years of experience. And so if I get that from them, I'll be doing it properly. An example is the quick stop. Are you familiar with the quick stop, the chupa, huh? Off the swing out?
I feel like I've seen it before a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I learned it in the Midwest, it was more of a rotational thing, which some people in California do here. But when I learned it from Patrick, and I learned the California way, which is just straight uh, up, or down, up, down, right? And then all you're doing is using the momentum, and then it creates that. That's how Grace and Blake do it, and it feels really nice. And I wouldn't have learned that if I hadn't uh, picked it up from them. But that is how I practice. When I practice with Amy and Jungle, honestly, it just tends to be a lot of us just laughing the whole time. Like, there was one point where Jungle and Jet were practicing, and Amy and I were in another room practicing. And when Amy and I practice, we just laugh a lot because we try to figure stuff out, and she's just a funny person. So those make the practices really, really fun. Same with Jungle, honestly. It's a really good time. That was a quick word break, but that actually takes me to the point of partners. How did you end up like partnering with Matt? And did you all have a conversation about what that partnership looked like?
I think it just developed really organically. Actually, there was one other person who I was practicing with a little bit before I met Matt,
Hmm.
or before I started practicing, and I think it was kinda interesting because he was this other person was the first person I started practicing with, but I don't think we were necessarily on the same page about what we wanted out of practice sessions. And I
Hmm.
don't know if that gets talked about a lot in the community, how like when you start practicing with someone, sometimes you can have really different expectations about how you want it to go.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the other person, he wanted someone to hang out with and maybe practice for 5 minutes, but tell funny stories for 30 minutes. Whereas
Oh.
when I started practicing more with Matt, he was so patient with me. He was down to do like a 6 count basic with an underarm turn for 45 minutes.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I think and the whole time, I remember the first time we practiced, I was like, "Is this okay? Like, are you bored? Let me know if you wanna do something else. Otherwise, like, if we can just do this for, like, a little bit longer, that'd be perfect."
Hmm. Hmm.
And I just kept checking in with him the whole time, and he was like, "Yeah, yeah, this is great." And I think even after that first time, I was like, "Okay, this is, like, really what I want is, like, a drilling partner." So then we
Hmm.
started doing that more and more, and I feel like the thing is, like, Matt is such a patient person,
Hmm.
and if I say, like, "Hey, can you lead a swing out with a 6 count basic for the next 45 minutes?" He's totally down for that.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and or I'll say, like, "Hey, is there any chance we can just practice, just a swing out with an outside turn so I can try this footwork variation?" And
Yeah.
he is just down to do that with me for, like, forever. So, I think in that way, we're really, really, like, great as partners, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. It sounds as if you found someone who had the same expectations and goals as you, and
Yeah.
that aligned.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. What was your process like for finding dance partners?
I mean, for me, I've had some, but as far as Amy goes, like when I dance with Amy, it's like everything just works, and we're it just works, right? And I remember the first time, like the first couple times we danced, we did some things that I had never done with anyone before, like some certain steps, and we were very in tune with how we listened to the music. And so
Uh,
I feel very lucky that I was able to find Amy and Jungle as well because we hear the music the same and
mm.
whatnot. Having a dance partner is kind of like having another relationship because like Amy's one of she's probably one of the closest people that I have here in SoCal, right? And so that dance partnership kind of like blossomed into like a really beautiful friendship because we literally believe that we were ancestors or siblings like way back when because I literally call her my little sister, right?
Oh.
And the way that it works is the way that I approach my dance partnerships is the first thing I do is I tell my dance partner, hey, would you like to be on a dance partner? Like just ask them, would you like to be on a dance? I'm like, oh yeah. And then we talk about what the expectation looks like. And then I also put the expectation out there that, hey, I also just want to point out and just say it verbally that I will never be interested in you romantically. Like you are a bro, you are a dance partner, and that's that. I'm very, very lucky that all of my dance partners already have romantic partners. And so it makes things so simple because sometimes I'll meet people and they'll become dance partners, but then they become romantically involved. And then once that ends, well, then typically that dance partnership ends.
Right.
Yeah, and so I approach it that way. But the cool thing about SoCal is everyone here tends to be very mature when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, no, we're dance partners. That means you can't dance with anyone else. Like, oh my God. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's how I approached it. But I think that there are other people who approach it uh differently. So here's a question for you. Seeing as you and Matt have only been dancing for a year, right? You already have learned a lot of stuff about how to drill, how to practice, how to be dance partners. But if there was someone who is listening to this podcast right now who's considering being a dance partner with someone or finding a dance partner, you as someone who's only been doing it for a year, what are some insights that you've learned the past year that could help them do that?
Oh, I feel like one thing that was helpful is meets, well, at least for me, the easiest way was to take some classes at Atomic and try and dance with them a couple times in the socials, and then
Mm-hmm.
just ask if they want to practice.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like for me, that was kind of the process that I took. And a lot of people are super open to just practicing with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think for me too, it was very organic, right? Because um, I'm not necessarily looking to perform or compete, just like really improve my dance skills. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that just finding someone who was like in the same level classes as me, who was just down to practice, like once a week or twice a week, like that was exactly what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of curious for you though, because since you compete, that's like a whole different ball game, right?
A little
So
bit.
yeah, so if someone's looking for like competition partners, what would you recommend?
Bro, you're so good at asking questions back. Oh my God. Why don't you start a podcast? Honestly, when it comes to competition partners, I feel like two people need to be on the same page in order to
Mm,
compete together. So the one of the reasons why I say that is because Amy and I have this concept that we learned from her older sister, which is the concept of it would be nice. And when we did Camp Hollywood, we just said it would be nice if we made finals, but if we don't, then that's okay too, because competitions I've seen people like reel from competitions where they don't make finals, where they don't do as well in finals, and it just ruins their day, and they'll just go to sleep early, and they just it just they just don't like it. And for us, we understand ourselves where we stand emotionally, where we realize our goal isn't just to demolish the other competition or just to beat so and so or make it like super adversarial. Instead, we approach it as here's the music. There are people here watching us, and it's a privilege that we get to be here and share space and energy with them. And so we want to give that energy back by doing our best, respecting the music, and just having a really, really good time. Because for us, there's a class series that we teach. It tends to be the concept of let loose, have fun. And
mm.
so when we approach it that way with the mindset that we're not looking to just win everything, but we are looking to be our best selves and do our best dance, that really helps us. And it drives our practice. Like we always think that practice should be super fun and there should be laughs involved because if there's not and we're just hyper focused on this one thing, then it somewhat becomes a job. And neither of us is looking to make this a career, but we are trying to make an impact on the world because she's a teacher and I also love to teach. And so we want to impact other people and share the beauty of what this dance is and hopefully help the community connect that way, you know?
Yeah, I can totally see that. And I think too, one thing that may or may not be spoken is that I feel like in a way you value your partner's feelings and your partner's friendship, like your friendship with your partners. I think that in some ways you value that friendship more than you value winning. Right? Like, I feel like that's kind of the mindset that you guys go in, which kind of just makes it even more fun to do together. Like, it's a thing that you guys get to do together. You know what I mean?
150% because you're absolutely right. Because for me, it matters. It's kind of like being in a relationship, right? If you're in a relationship, you have to understand whether you care to be right, aka win, or you want to be heard and make progress, aka have fun and move forward. And for us,
Mhm.
it's the concept of we want to have fun and move forward more than we care about winning because it's not as important for us to win. Like if we win, sure, that'd be great and that's fun and that would be fantastic. But to me, it matters so much more that A, that whenever I dance with my partner, she's comfortable, that I'm not dancing in such a way that's uncomfortable.
Mm,
And B, that we still respect the music, which is why I think Amy and I are so musical, is because we listen to the music the same and we want to express the music, and we just want to respect the music. And then the last thing is we obviously want to have fun and help have the crowd or whoever's watching also have fun, you know? Yeah. I don't think we're going to talk about this. This is really cool. Now, you said I love how you approach dancing with the mindset of I'm not trying to compete or perform. I'm just trying to have fun because this is your pure joy place. This is your happy place, right?
yeah, totally.
And I think that there are a lot of people who sometimes feel like they have to compete or they have to perform. Um, but if you were to break down like the why behind why you don't, I think that would help some people kind of understand that mindset. So if you could, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I think though that it's really important to like recognize that I have like the greatest level of respect for people who do compete. I
Of
think
course,
it's
yeah.
amazing. And I will totally be the person in the stands cheering you on
Yeah.
and being like, that is amazing. Like even just showing up to a competition and getting in front of everyone and like dancing in front of everyone, knowing that everyone is watching you, that's like so amazing. So
Hmm.
just I have just like the highest level of respect for people who really really compete in the space. I think for me, I just know that if I do decide to compete, I know it's going to turn into a very serious thing. Like
Hmm.
if I were to compete, I would most likely I would most likely, look up what the competition times are and start to practice at that exact time every single day. I would I would buy multiples of like my competition clothing and only social and practice in only that clothing and only those shoes. I would like make sure that I had a dance partner who was down to practice at that time every single day. I would make sure that like my diet is pristine, my sleeping habits are pristine. I would make sure that like, and I would be drilling, I would be breaking down, like watching competition videos and like memorizing full competition sets and breaking them down. I would be making playlists of competition songs that are most commonly played, only listening to that music, and so like for me, that's kind of what I would do if I were going to compete. And I just think like I have so many serious endeavors in my life already.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I think like even though there's a part of me that would just be so happy to compete and would love to, I just think like the level that's right for my lifestyle is socialing.
Hmm.
Just like enjoying it for what it is, like enjoying the Tuesday and Friday nights for like what they are and like having a good time with people, going out to BCD late at night and being totally sleepy the next day for work, like that's like the lifestyle that I'm enjoying, like I'm having a good time.
Of
Um,
course, yeah.
so for me, it's like, and I know that there's like a huge gradient in between, but for me, it tends to be one or the other. Um, so yeah, I think that's like my perspective is I love hanging out and talking to people. I love dancing with people socially. I love
Hmm.
like um I have in some ways I have like a very when I'm socialing, it's like a very carefree sort of attitude. Like it doesn't necessarily get me down if I miss a pattern,
Hmm. Hmm. It's like,
Um,
uh.
yeah, right, because I'm just there just to social and have a good time. So I think for me, that's kind of the difference. Yeah, what do you think?
No, no, no. That's beautiful because that totally makes sense. And I really like how you said that you know yourself enough to know what you would do if you did become serious about it, right? That level of self-awareness, I think, is powerful because then that informs your decisions so you can make the decisions that are best for you and your lifestyle.
Yeah, definitely. And I kind of know this because I've taken other passions in the past and done this. And
Hmm.
even though I get good results from being very disciplined with my practice, it in some ways it's not as carefree anymore, right? Because it's not
Hmm.
just like, oh, I'm doing this when I feel like it, or I'm doing this as like a stress relief thing or just to enjoy my weekend. It's more like I'm waking up and even if I'm not in the mood to do it, I'm doing it, right? So I don't
Right.
necessarily want dance to like play that role in my life. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that that to me means so much because there are I've seen some people really go hard in like there's going hard for a goal. If it's to compete, if it's to do whatever, like that's great. And then there's going hard for uh reasons that may not be the healthiest. Like I've seen someone go hard because they want to take revenge on one of their old partners who used to
Yeah.
beat them in
Yeah.
competitions, and they went hard, like they would like change their diet and everything. And then I see the other people who go hard because they want to become a professional or they really want to win a competition. That's also valid and fair. The level of self-awareness it takes to recognize that there are more things that are more important than dance, such as your mental health or your lifestyle
Yeah.
or your emotional health. Like that's something to take into consideration, I feel like. And it's so cool that you recognize that already, you know?
Yeah. But going back to the competition and the dance partners, I'm kind
Hmm.
of curious because you said you've taken privates from Blake.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm curious what kinds of things that you learned recently from Blake and Grace.
Oh my God. I have a whole list that's so long of the things that I've learned. So if anyone's listening and they've never taken a private from Blake or Grace, I highly recommend it. Hell, I recommend getting a private from any of the dance instructors at Atomic, like Matt Ritchie, Nick Williams, Mikey, Nikki, everybody, because it's very powerful to hear from like the people that have put in the work. One of
Mm.
the things when I mainly work with Blake, we mainly do Balboa because I really like the way Blake does Balboa, and I'm trying to learn how to be a better Balboa dancer. And the things that I've learned are super technical. You would absolutely love taking a class with him because he can break things down to the molecule and muscle fiber if you want him to. And so, like we talked about tone, movement, dynamic movement. We talked about internal rotation and how when you're doing lollies, it should be like rotated and the way you step and turn and all this really, really good stuff that I've been chewing on for the past couple of weeks. Um, but I learned a heck of a lot from them, and my plan is to continue taking privates from them in July once things kind of like get back to normal for me. But that highly recommend taking class soon. Highly recommend for sure.
So, what did you learn about rotations?
So when he was talking about Balboa rotations, he was talking about stepping from like heel toe and making it look that smooth, and then stepping heel toe and then turning on the ball of your feet. And then with lollies, he was talking about kicking like it was a soccer ball, which made sense to me. So he like breaks things down in such a way that are relevant to me because I played soccer. So that was cool to experience, you
Mm,
know.
yeah.
And yeah, there are other rotation. He was talking about like it should be like a ringing a towel, and
Mm.
your body is that towel. And so he was talking about that. Um, and talking about like core stuff and arm stuff, where that goes. Like the hands should just stay here. I have it all in my notes somewhere. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, they are fantastic. Just like how this podcast has been fantastic. That being said, is there anything you want to talk about before we went into the final questions of the podcast?
I feel like one thing that okay, I was just thinking about these different dance styles,
Hmm. Hmm.
and because I feel like, even in swing, like when you think about Balboa, Shag, and Lindy. I mean, there's so many differences between those three, but I feel
Hmm.
like a lot of people know how to do all three dance styles.
Hmm.
And I was thinking, like, I was wondering what your thoughts were on keeping all the different dance styles straight in your head. Like, what does that look like for you?
Mm-hmm, hmm. That is a fantastic question that I don't have the answer to. I, the people who can do all three, I like to call them a triple threat because they know all three of those dances. And I like to call myself the threat and a half of SoCal because I'm a primary Lindy dancer and I do a little bit of Balboa. And I still am not going to call myself a shy dancer, even though I've done several classes, but I can't do it just yet, you know?
So even between Balboa and Lindy, though, how do you keep them straight in your head?
I have no idea how these California kids are. I have no idea. I've seen and experienced like if I just do a Balboa weekend or focus on Bal, well then my Lindy's kind of off. Or if I just do Lindy, then my Balboa is kind of off or something. So I don't know how they do it, but they do it. And that's a good question. I should find someone to answer. Oh, I have some people on the pod who are going to be on the podcast. I'm going to answer that.
Ooh, I actually asked Matt Ritchie that recently. I was like,
Uh-huh.
how do you do it? Because he actually does, West Coast and Lindy, which is super different, right? And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, how do you keep them straight in your head? And it was so interesting. He said he actually has a tendency to wear different clothes. Like,
Ah.
oh, these outfits, I might wear and do Lindy, and that'll put me more in like a Lindy mindset. And these clothes, like I might wear for West Coast. And I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, that's an amazing psychology tip right there, for sure.
Yeah, so I thought that was really interesting. I wonder too, like there was this concept that got brought up on the different languages of like, or the different dance styles is sort of being similar to like being bilingual,
Yes, yes.
like knowing different languages or communication styles. And
Hmm.
I was wondering, like, do you think that's kind of comparable to dance styles?
Oh yeah, yeah. When I when I speak when I speak Malagasy, I am a lot more. I have like a deeper tone and a different quote unquote personality. Like it's still the same, but it's different,
Hmm.
right? Whereas when I speak French, I sound kind of like a snooty person. Um, um, but yeah, no, I think that's definitely the case, which I'm sure you definitely experienced, as you hit all the dances at Atomic, right?
Yeah. I think though that it might be slightly different for okay, so I was asking Matt Ritchie about this. I was like, how do you keep them all straight? And he said for himself, he does different outfits. And then he said, oh, but if you're asking as a follow, I have a different response. And I was like,
Oh.
oh, what is that? And he was like, well, for a follow, I would recommend focusing on the movement that you feel as opposed to thinking of them as completely different dance styles. And I think in a way that is kind of true, like,
Hmm.
because I
Hmm.
feel like so much of that movement is from lead follow connection.
Hmm. Hmm.
And even with Lindy, like, for example, if you like learning the patterns isn't enough because when you start to dance with more advanced dancers, they don't care if it's like a 6 count or an 8 count. It's gonna be like a whatever count feels right for the song count.
Hmm.
So I think so much of it is more of it, I think he's totally right that it's so much more about the feeling that you're feeling and
Hmm.
like listening to the redirections as opposed to thinking of like what style it is.
Hmm. No, that tracks. That definitely tracks. Listening for the movement uh as opposed to like thinking of the pattern or the dance. That's
Yeah.
yeah, that's
I
powerful.
think
That's yeah.
yeah, I think that's the takeaway of this podcast. Matt Ritchie is wise.
Yes, Matt Ritchie is indeed wise. I am going to work on getting him on the podcast here
Oh
soon.
my gosh, that would be amazing.
I don't know when I'll be able to get him on, but I would love for him to jump on because that would be fun. I have several people in the works, several really fun people in the works, so that
Yes,
should be fun.
everyone, leave a comment down below and say that you want Matt Ritchie on this podcast.
Do it, do it. Tell us you're embarrassed. That's actually it. At the end of, if you made it to the end of this podcast, at the very end, put down your most embarrassing dance story and say, "Get Matt Ritchie on the podcast." Run those comments up so that he has to see them, and hell, even tag him. Send him this podcast on Instagram. Okay, so now we're jumping in towards the end of the podcast. So I'm going to ask the 3 questions I ask all of my guests. All right. So the first one is if people are trying to find more information about you, or if you want to plug any websites or anything, what would that be?
Oh yeah, so I'm right now I've been working on a lot of art and creative projects on the side. So if you guys want to check that out, it's at botanypress.com. And yeah, I'd love any feedback that you guys have.
Boom, botanypress.com. Go check that out, people. And the other question is, where are you traveling for the next year for dance?
Oh, I am so excited. This year is going to be my 2nd time going to Camp Hollywood. And yeah, I cannot wait. It is like the highlight of my year. I'm so excited.
That would be absolutely incredible. And it'll be really fun. Yeah, it's coming up. It's coming up real fast.
Yeah, and I think I am going to get a private for it to practice and work on my Lindy Hop game for
Let's go. Let's go. All right, and here's the last question I ask all of my guests. So if you could leave a message for any Lindy Hoppers that are listening, and swing dancers listening, what would that be?
So my message to the Lindy Hop community is that you guys are the most incredibly wonderful and talented and kind people I've ever met in my life.
Oh.
And I think my message is, just thank you so much for letting me be a part of your community. Yeah.
Aw, holy cow. Wow, that was so touching. Oh my gosh, Shari, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, well that is a good message. So our Lindy Hop community, we got to keep this up so we can keep bringing wonderful people like Shari into the community. All right. Well, Shari, thank you so much. Super appreciate you being on. You're muted right now, by the way. And I want to say to everyone listening, thank you so much for lending us your ears. We super appreciate you. If you're listening to this on YouTube, subscribe. That helps us. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, please rate us 5-star. Don't forget to follow us. Send this to anyone who you think would find it useful. And don't forget to put your things down in the comments. Shari, thank you so much for being here. Super appreciate you.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
It was. Don't go anywhere after I stop recording so we can chat a little bit. But everyone else, thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much for lending us your ears on the SoCal Summer Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram, Spotify, and subscribe to us on YouTube. We're looking forward to putting out some great episodes for you, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.